Mindfulness Journey.
Welcome to the Mindfulness Journey at MMC TV USA. This is Bante Sumana. Once again, you are going to learning from a living spiritual personality. Today, Dr. Sumana Rathnayaka is here with us. Welcome to our studio, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining our studio in Los Angeles. I would like to introduce my spiritual Dhamma teacher today. He is Dr. Sumana Rathnayaka, one of the elite Buddhist professor, senior lecturer in Sri Lanka. He has been in the academic teaching experience in Sri Lanka and in other countries, especially 17 years of academic experience in Peradeniya University and also several other Buddhist institutions like Fo Guang Monastic Training in Taiwan and also International Buddhist College in Thailand and so many other institutions. And also he's the one who established the Stockholm Buddhist Vihara in Sweden, which is the first Buddhist Vihara temple in Sweden. And also he has earned MLit from Oxford University and also PhD position in Lund University, Sweden. So my dear professor, teacher, I would like to learn from your life. There are a lot of theories, there are a lot of Buddhist theories, but in this program, the very thing we want to learn is about your experience in the Dharma path. So the first would like to know, how did you start this spiritual journey? There must be something triggering point from your childhood.
Of course, yeah. Thank you for being invited to this program. I'm honored. I am grateful to you all for organizing a session like this. For my practice, I was born Buddhist. So that way I was lucky to be born in Sri Lanka in a Buddhist family. Then from the age of 6, I had some special interest in practicing mindfulness, practicing meditation very devoutly.
What made you to get connected to from such very young age?
I think I was inspired by my grandmother, grandfather, especially grandmother, and then my own father and my parents. They were observing 8 precepts on full moon days. And I was brought up in such a background in Sri Lanka where a lot of people observe 8 precepts at village temples. So I was impressed by all this. And when I look at the Buddha, for example, Buddha looked serene to me, and I felt like, why not I become somebody enlightened someday. That was my, interest from the childhood.
Wow, it looks like, even though the statue looks like toys at the age of 6, right?
That's right, yeah.
But you found the peace in those statues.
That's what I felt. So I felt I could train myself seated like, like in the lotus posture as I see the Buddha statue. So I trained myself to wear, saffron color, cloth and seated in the lotus posture.
Wow.
And sometime when I went to school, I saw some circuses, some circus people sat in the cross-legged posture. So it was heroic for a child to, practice such postures. So I was training like that. But only me, in my family, especially as a boy, I was the 4th in my family, and altogether we were 7 brothers and sisters. And only it was in me that particular interest developed. So I went to temples and I went to Bodhi trees, and I just sat under Bodhi tree sometimes cross-legged for hours.
Oh wow.
And some other people just praise, oh wonderful, that little boy was seated so well. And I was encouraged to hearing some, when people use such words to praise me, I felt that
like I should
it was a motivation to me. So I was continuing like that. That was my childhood, of course. Of course, I was just like other children. I was interested in playing, cricket and other games. And that way I went on in my childhood. And still listening to Dhamma talks. Even my father was good at giving Dhamma talks that time. So I was listening to him, and this sort of background I was brought up in the village.
Family background, the village background.
Of course. And the temple, all that was supporting me. Even at school, we studied Buddhism, etc. And that interested me.
Country.
Yeah, that made me very much interested in the practice and learning more about meditation, how to follow the Buddha's way, etc.
Yes, thank you, sir. Yes, when we grow up in this Buddhist world, we witness a lot of Buddhist traditions. Even myself, born in a very hybrid tradition like Vajrayana, Hindu, and Theravada Buddhist, hybrid family. And even I felt a lot of issues, which one is better, Even there are 3 schools, there are a lot of sub-schools, the sub-nikayas, and a lot of cultures. So how do we find, authentic Buddhist teacher? People often come to us and ask, which Buddhism is the best or authentic? So,
yeah, it's a good question, Bhante. Yeah, that happened to me during my, studies especially. And when I grew up, I had the privilege to spend even a monastic life in the Theravada order.
That's a wonderful experience.
And after that, I had the opportunity to go abroad and to experience more schools of Buddhism. During my studies at the university, of course, I learned Mahayana Buddhism, Vajrayana Buddhism, Theravada Buddhism, etc. during my university life. But we were not that, fortunate enough to see other Buddhist traditions that much, compared to Theravada tradition. We have a lot of Theravada temples in Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
And we have a few Mahayana-oriented temples like pagodas. In Siripada, for example, there are peace pagodas.
Peace pagoda, by Japan.
And some other places, like when we were studying at the university, we know some lamas, Tibetan lamas had education at Sri Lankan universities. And there were some other monks from different traditions like Laos, Thailand, Tibet, and some other countries. Some Chinese and Taiwanese monks and nuns were studying. So that way we were, associated with different Buddhist traditions. And during my, studies for my first degree, for example, we had courses because I specialized in Buddhist philosophy that time. So I had the opportunity to learn origin of Mahayana Buddhism, the schools of Buddhism, so how Buddhist schools developed in history, all that. And when we learn all this, we were very much exposed to how different interpretations and how different teachings of different Buddhist schools were communicated to us. So that way, I was impressed by certain principal teachings of these schools, of course. When I, for example, studied at the university, I learned about Shunyata philosophy, Madhyamika philosophy. They are
They're very close to early Buddhism.
Yeah, very close to early Buddhism. When we studied Paticampada in early Buddhism, and when Nagarjuna teaching about Madhyamika school and teaching Shunyata, etc., we could easily compare them with what is taught under dependent origination. Or dependent co-arising, for example. So when we compared them, we really enjoyed the beauty of these schools and teachings based on these schools. So that was my first impression when I studied at the university. I got that impression that, of course, we are exposed to the Buddhist world with a rich source of knowledge behind. So when we compared them, of course, we saw the beauty and how they can be in harmony with each other.
instead of being biased.
That's right,
polarized.
yeah. Of course, being biased, prejudiced can happen with regard to any school, whatever. Because in the course of time, when culture develops, various monuments will be added, and some kind of theistic value is added. And some kind of, beyond human experiences will be added. Then you will see some development connected to, divine aspects, even Bodhisattva being, more deified, more divined, more divinity is added to, that is how people...
So what happen with build religion?
That is what, people are interested in.
Cultural aspects.
People like that sort of development. And people like to depend on such divinity and experiences that they cannot just simply get.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing is common to all kinds of traditions, to my understanding. But there is no clash as such, that as far as the principal teachings are concerned, everybody agrees with the Four Noble Truths, for example. Dependent origination is common to everybody. When we talk about even Shunyata, it is common to all the schools, if you know the true meaning of it. Of course, when we say emptiness, many don't understand whether it is vacuumness or just being empty, but it is dependent nature.
Yeah.
How things are of dependent nature, therefore there is nothing independent. Everything is empty of its own nature.
There is no essence of its own.
That's right. There is no essence of its own. And that is common to all these Buddhist schools as far as the original philosophy or original teachings are concerned.
Oh, that's amazing. Means there is always room for common studies.
Of course.
Collective.
Yeah. I think that is the source of knowledge that we all have throughout history of Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist studies.
That's like a beautiful colors of same, garden flower.
That's what I understand too. Yes.
Yeah, that's really amazing. And also, I often see there is another kind of polarization is, there is one group of people who study only Buddhism only through academically, and there is another group in a very culturally or applied way. So how can we, balance this life,
Yeah. Actually, if you study any philosophy, any teaching based on only the academic aspect, it will be dry, to my understanding. So if you can benefit from the practical aspects, because as it is clear that whatever teaching you find in Buddha's teaching, it should be practically useful, and it should be ethically developing, ethically improving, ethically edifying. So that aspect one cannot forget. If we forget that, we become exhausted by learning so much. But as much as we learn and practice, there is no fatigueness involved, there is no tiredness involved. So we can enjoy, of course, learning.
Being dry.
Yeah, learning at the same time applying the learning to the practice.
Yeah, it reminds me one saying in English: "Don't throw the baby with the bath water."
That's true. That's true.
When in the sense of secularization, we study Buddhism secularly.
That's right.
And we throw out a lot of essence like virtues, right?
Yeah. And also it's very important to understand the last quality of the Dhamma, as we know, that everything should be understood by the wise, each for himself or herself, because it is a personal experience. Teaching is not a common one, because commonly we can't experience anything, in reality. We need to experience anything, making things a first-hand knowledge. As far as we limit them to book knowledge and hearing from others, it will be just, as Parato Ghosa, that is voice of others, testimony of others, good source of knowledge, contribute to the knowledge, but it is always second-hand knowledge. Whenever it becomes a first-hand knowledge, that is your personal experience. And that is only unique. It is unique to each individual. So that is the last quality of the Dhamma, which should be, of course, benefited from, everybody should benefit from such applications, such meanings of the teaching.
Oh, it means there is like an individual path.
Yeah,
It's an
individual
path.
Yeah, individual path, and it should be something that personally.
Very introspective.
Yeah, one should experience it personally.
Wow, that's really amazing. Most of the time, we were given by this high authority all kind of knowledge through the, authoritarian tradition, books, institutions. And those are really, most of the time, like through messenger or, most of the time we feel a lot of alienation.
That's true.
With the teaching and our own experiential life.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. So if we apply the teaching to the practical level, I mean, if we make use of the teaching as a personal experience, making the knowledge a first-hand knowledge, I think that is where the key point of the practice
the Sandittika.
Sandittika. And also the last quality, Pacchattang Veditabbo Vinyuhiti. Pacchattang is personally. To be understood by the wise. Veditabbo means to be understood. Vinyuhi, by the wise.
By the wise.
Each and everything for himself and herself.
Wow, that's a very amazing message. Thank you. And also in the course of understanding the teaching of the Buddha or the Dharma, I often find that there should be something missing. Missing means in America, a lot of time people think that it's a very individualistic thing. They just read books and do retreat by themselves. But isn't there any need of spiritual relationship?
Definitely.
Like a teacher, student?
Yeah, definitely. That is very important actually. Because we cannot just read and understand by ourselves always. We need to consult teachers. We need to find the qualified teachers, for example. And if we learn something from somebody, we need to add a joy factor into it.
What do you mean by joy?
Joy means that we need to enjoy whatever we find interesting and we find meaningful. If we find in our life, for example, in the very truth of the Buddha, like First Noble Truth, indicates suffering is to be understood. Dukkhang parinyayang. Parinyayang is a very beautiful, expression. To be understood, to be understood from all around. That is what parinyayang means. Pari means from all around, from all dimensions. One should understand something. Once you have understood, it should be appreciated. Otherwise, there is no point of understanding. Because you cannot vitalize it or keep it going with you without appreciating it. So even as far as suffering is concerned, people think that it is negative. And stress is negative.
Negative, yeah.
And being sick is a negative. But I always stress the fact that every negative thing we can understand, and understanding will make it positive.
Oh wow, that's
because understanding of sicknesses is what the doctors do first. As medical students, they study pathology. So when they study pathology, they cannot keep going if you cannot appreciate what they learn. So understanding sicknesses, develops in themselves to the level of compassion, so that they can feel for others. They can, diagnose with compassion, sympathy, empathy, like, good emotions, positive emotions can be added there. So that way, joy factor must play a very important role.
That's really amazing. Most of the time, I was often asked by a lot of, Dhamma friends that, they says that, before I was very, calm. Once I start doing meditation, I become so wild and very angry person. And they say, what do you mean like that? And they say, You know, before I was so calm, but once I do a meditation, I start to see anger inside me, and they do not appreciate.
They
their
don't
recognition.
appreciate. They cannot appreciate. Yeah, but the good point, but that you brought up. When you meditate, for example, what happens is that your mind becomes more sensitive. That is why you feel, angrier when you are emotionally upset sometimes. So if you become angrier, that means you have made your mind more sensitive than before, more softer, more sensitive than before. That is an advancement. That is a progress. But if you don't, in parallel with your progress, if you don't progress your positive side like joy factor, way of understanding your situation, if you can see that your mind has become now sensitive, so if I am angry now, I need to go a step backward, and see that my mind is now upset. And now I have touched the point. I have touched upon suffering now. I have understood that my mind is more sensitive, and I understood the problem. And that understanding should be appreciated by himself. We should appreciate that capacity has developed. Capacity of understanding myself has developed now. So rather than hating the hatred, rather than being angry at anger, you can just see understanding of anger is more important. When I understand my anger, I can start with a smile now. Because smile is the expression when you appreciate something. So if you can, soon after your anger finishes, or even when you are angry, if you can shorten the gap, the distance or the time that how long you are angry, etc. If you can minimize the time, soon after some time, you can see, oh, I was angry now. A while ago, some minutes ago, I was angry. Now I see my mind has become more sensitive. And that understanding should be appreciated. Who is going to appreciate it? Not others.
No one others, yeah.
Oneself. One has to appreciate it oneself. Then it gives an opening, a space around anger. Otherwise you are stuck in anger and you don't know the way out of it.
Even we are angry of the angry.
That is the normal happening actually. So-called meditators most of the time find it troublesome sometimes, and they don't know what the answer is. I remember somebody telling me, after having meditated for over 10 years, at home, little thing will make her or make him angry. And she or he had to cry. And sometime when our discussions, we had a discussion, private discussion, at a discussion I remember somebody was asking me, what was your answer for that? And I can't tell others that, after having meditated for such a long time, if I were to get angry at home and cry, can I just say that I'm a meditator? Then I asked, actually it's a lady, so I asked her in return, did you really understand? Did you really see that you became angry? And did you really see that it was your suffering? She said yes. Then I asked, did you ever appreciate your understanding? Did you ever appreciate your understanding of your anger? That understanding of the need of crying at that level? And did you touch upon your suffering? And did you appreciate your being able to touch upon your suffering? Your being able to understand. And that understanding should be appreciated. Did you do this? And she said, no, I didn't do. I said, hereafter, please make it a practice. Whenever you find that you became angry, and anger made you understand that you had suffering, and as soon as you have understood that it was suffering, appreciate your understanding of your suffering. It's not that we appreciate suffering. It's not that we appreciate anger, but we should appreciate the understanding of our own anger.
That's make us more motivated to the path.
That's right, Bhante. It's a very important. Many don't, many don't see this point. But of course, if you are mindful, if you focus on this, it will be a very useful turning point. from suffering into awareness, from suffering into understanding.
I remember people when they are in spiritual urgency or emergency, they immediately become so spiritual, and they do all the thing, and after a while they become very demotivated, and they just give up their spiritual practice.
That is because we are all of the nature of changing. We are subject to changing patterns all the time. But if we don't accelerate, if we don't try to use such practices like finding a joy factor in relation to understanding of our suffering, then we cannot get rid of our suffering. We need to remind ourselves often, that is the practice, of course. We need to remind ourselves, we have to understand that we are angry, that our mind became so sensitive now. Therefore, this understanding should be appreciated. And I smile on my own understanding of anger. With regard to my own experience, I appreciate my understanding of anger. Rather than, it's not possible to appreciate anger. But I can understand and appreciate understanding of my anger, so that I find a turning point from my anger into awareness and appreciation, and more, actually it is sympathetic joy.
Yes, piti, right?
Piti, and what we name as mudita. Mudita is appreciative joy or sympathetic joy. This factor should be applied to their practice, so that they can, continue without being tired of their own practice.
And at the same time, you need a spiritual Kalyana Mitras.
Definitely, Bhante. Actually, this discussion itself will become a Kalyana Mitra to some people. If they are keen enough to, make use of these discussions. Because they can benefit from these discussions and make this discussion their own discussion. And make them add some more quality to what they hear from these discussions. And, make it their own personal, unique application.
Because everyone has to find their own answer for their own.
Definitely.
Because they are the one who experience the problem, Everyone's problem is unique.
That's right. And there is no savior.
Yes.
Savior is within oneself. Each individual has a savior. And that savior is nothing else but mindfulness. Nothing else but this joy. Joy factor which is not violated. It is not unwholesome joy factor, but it is a wholesome joy factor.
Wow, that's a really good message at the moment of adversity,
Yeah.
We are often, pushed to our edges.
Yeah.
And, we often, push the edges of our patience. Do you have any, your personal experience of those, kind of very extreme edges that you have been pushed by someone else and overcome immediately?
Yeah, I have several incidents like that in my life, actually. Once I lived in Jaffna, for example, in Sri Lanka.
That's a war zone area.
Yeah,
right?
war zone area. That time I had to face a very tragic situation. But I determined that I would never ask for, problems. I don't want to get into troubles by, adding anything from my side. I never wanted to add fuel to the fire.
You were fighting, right? Sinhalese and Tamils.
Yeah, there were such kind of problems, and during certain times. So sometime this was discussed in certain, levels, like a governmental level and some society level. And then some people were aroused with their feelings. But once I was studying among a lot of Tamil students, I had a lot of good friends in the school. And one day when I was going from school to where I was living, I noticed, because of the, arousement of the feelings, emotions, negative emotions in the, in certain societies, there were two young men, looking rough at me and staring at me and going on a cycle, looking at me, just, they wanted to catch me somewhere. But I had promised to my parents and my teachers when I went to Jaffna that I would never, go into such a kind of conflict aspect. I was living in harmony. I was willing to practice loving kindness towards each other, compassion towards each other, as I have been teaching and I have been learning. And at that time, I noticed that I had no help. And these two young people noticed that I was walking along the road.
And since you were a monk, right, at the time?
At that time, Bhante,
In
yes,
saffron
thank
robe.
you. Yeah, I was in my robe actually, a monastic life, as I mentioned. I was 22 at that time. So I was, kind of center of attack, center of attraction, at the same time, center of attack. And no other monks were around, no other Sinhalese were around. So I was walking. And these young men misunderstood me because they heard, various gossips from various...
Sinhalese.
Yeah. And they were on the cycle aiming at stopping me somewhere. So what I determined that I would only have loving kindness towards them. I was smiling towards them. So when I went at a crossroad, they just crossed the road and they stopped me and they scolded me with very bad words, very filthy words in Tamil, which I understood at that time. And then I smiled. They, addressed me with very disrespected words because they wanted me to get involved in the trouble, in the quarrel, so to say. And I smiled towards them, and I spoke some kind words towards them. I said, my only practice is loving kindness for you. I have loving kindness. I have, I try to practice compassion all the time, and even now I don't have anything against you. Only kind words. And when I smiled and said like this, they were shocked. It was very useful experience for me at that time. And how they changed their attitude so quickly. When they express themselves with rough and filthy words, and when I expressed very kind words, I noticed the change very quickly. And they were stuck. And they didn't have any words to, express further. They did not want to continue with it. And they looked, as if they were, dumb.
Ah, wow.
And
Such a powerful.
yeah, very powerful. I mean, it was not my power. It was the words. It was the meaning, and it was the smile. And there was no reaction from my side. And then they felt, that they didn't have anything to say. And I waited about a minute. Nothing was expressed any further. Then I said, goodbye. See you another time. If you have anything else to discuss, please feel free. And I say goodbye now for the moment. And I took my leave slowly, walking. And it reminded me some, sayings from the Dhammapada, like, verses that... Naivirena Verani, like stanzas, number 5 of the Dhammapada, and there are some other stanzas. Akkodena jine kodang. Actually, that particular verse I remembered. Akkodena jine kodang. That means, koda means anger is overcome by non-anger.
This antidote.
Sorry, antidote. Such antidotes are expressed in that stanza. Akkodena jine kodang, asadung sadhuna jine. If you find anything unrighteous, righteousness is to overcome it. Kodena jine kodang asadun sadhuna jine. Jine kadariyang danena. By giving only you can overcome stinginess. The stingy people will be overcome by, giving. And sachena alikavadinang. By telling the truth, you can overcome liars, lying mentality. So being honest and expressing truth will overcome the untrue kind of false behavior, etc. So these sort of reflections help me to just continue repeating for my own, safeguard, so to say, because I didn't have anything else to safeguard me at that time. So I was very happy, so that I continue like that. After a little while, I noticed somebody, at a road, just beside the house, trying to know my name, because I was a monk and I was very sort of alien because there were no monks in that area. And a little girl coming forward and asked me, "What is your name?"
Oh, wow.
At that
They were
time.
so friendly.
She was about 3 years old, still Tamil girl. But she was behaving totally different from the people who tried to,
Harm you.
scold me and attack me, etc. And the little girl was behaving in such a way that she wanted to say, know my name. So I said, my name, I wanted to say that, please call me a monk.
Wow.
I said, Bhikkhu என்று சொல்லுங்க, I said in Tamil.
Ah.
So she began to, speak aloud. She was she was calling me every morning when I passed by. Bhikkhu. Bhikkhu is my, in Tamil, Bhikkhu means monk.
Monk. Oh.
Yeah. So I asked her to call me Bhikkhu that time. So that was one of my experiences at the age of 22 while living in totally different area like Jaffna. But I had hundreds of Tamil friends of mine.
That's amazing.
They were so close to me because I learned Tamil from them. In certain classes I was teaching English to them. So we were living in harmony with each other.
You're a monk and you learned Tamil and you were so close with Tamil people.
Yeah, I went to all Hindu temples around. I listened to the stotras we call, or during ceremonies, they were chanting, the Hindu chanting. So I went there as a Buddhist monk and I was recording their chanting, which they appreciated a lot.
Yeah, I think that's the thing we really miss during this last 30 years of
That's
conflict.
true. That's true, really.
And we made each other's, enemies.
Yeah.
And still, I think those wounds are there in those hearts.
Definitely. Actually, I mentioned this at a conference because we had some conferences organized by Peradana University, Uppsala University and Gothenburg University together in Sri Lanka. At a conference, I was asked to give a talk on, connected to Buddhism. So I said I wanted to express my personal, experiences. So I made them like study cases. And I referred to this particular case of my experience. And the whole conference was called Post-War Reconstruction. How to, apply reconciliation. How to transform conflicts into better understanding and confidence. And these topics were there. So I contributed my own experiences as a source of thing for them to, for people or society to look into. So this sort of, when you ask me such experiences.
That's a great emotional intelligence, I think I see, Nowadays we are living in high-tech world, very intelligent, AI, artificial intelligence is here overtaking us, ChatGPT. And day by day, we are lacking this emotional intelligence.
Yeah, that's true.
Unable to recognize our own emotions and how to regulate our own emotions.
Yeah.
I think the way you, share your experience, how to see the anger and how to apply the remedy to the anger, boiling. The whole world is boiling with the anger, right?
Yeah, I think mostly the mistake that society is often doing is that they prepare against anger by being equipped with unnecessary weapons with them.
Yes.
Instead, if they can prepare their mind with the tool of loving kindness, that preparedness is, I think, qualifying them much better because they will not be shocked. Because we can't, escape death.
Yes.
We cannot run away from sicknesses. We are all subject to changing nature. But as long as we live, why don't we live with a smile on our face? That will add good quality to our body, health. And I read some articles like that you give rise to a lot of happy hormones.
Yeah, there are a lot of, it's called serotonin. A lot of the healthy, happy
endorphin
hormones.
And
dopamine.
All these, we learn this from scientists today. And what they say is that if you have a happy mind, if you practice little calm and stillness, relaxation, etc., at the same time you develop mindfulness. So you add the quality of loving kindness into it, compassion into it. So determined to, live a life in harmony with loving kindness and, positive qualities like sublime qualities, so that you maintain a mental balance in your capacity, which will help you and help your cells of the body even, your brain cells, because you add a lot of good hormones, happy hormones, without any, cost.
And also I learned it changed even our DNA.
Yeah.
And we will pass healthy DNA to our next generation.
That's a very great.
And another thing I recently learned is it's called mirror neurons.
Yeah.
Whenever we, happy or sad, the person who in front of us also feel the same emotion.
Oh, wonderful, Bhante.
It's reflect.
Yeah.
Our neurons reflect the emotion of the person who are in front of us.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
So our compassion, loving kindness, amplify. It's
Yes.
like the virus,
That's right, yeah. So as human beings, because we are qualified with, human qualities, if you can add little sublime quality to it, like, as we said now, about being mindful of loving kindness, compassion, appreciative joy or sympathetic joy, and maintain our mental balance, supporting our brain cells and our, whole body and mind with good hormones, so that we can maintain a smile for our own sake and for the society's sake, so that everybody will live happily, peacefully. There's no competition there. And that is what we should aim at. So always.
But unfortunately, we all are in the meritocratic world, want to be first or second.
That's right. And
comparison is always there.
Yeah. They look that they have won, but they have failed, because they live with anger and unnecessary negative emotions. That is what I feel.
Yes, this is very true. And become so, all the time we are, with unhealthy emotions.
That's true. That's true.
And we create a lot of problems to ourselves and also to
definitely, Bhante.
Entire world. I remember one of your the story of the the Buddha in the kitchen, or the Buddha shrine in the kitchen. Would you like to share that one?
Of course, Bhante, yes. Yeah, actually that happened when I was doing my research also, because I was doing my research on Buddhist studies, especially mindfulness. So I interviewed people. I went to Colombo once to look at. At the same time of interviewing, I had the intention to make a house with a good kitchen. So when I heard about a kitchen in a big house, which I wanted to, just see, when I went to that house, I just said that to the mother of the house, and this mother was telling me, "Oh, come, dear son, kitchen is the second house of the Buddha. So why don't you come and, enjoy looking at my kitchen?" Then I, rather than looking at the kitchen, I wanted her to interpret what she meant by second house of the Buddha. Kitchen being the second house of the Buddha. And then she was telling, "Oh, isn't it there that we practice a lot of qualities of the Buddha, like mindfulness we practice while washing dishes, and we make food out of compassion for each other, the whole family benefit from, our preparations. And if you can just focus on that, selfless attitudes, cleaning the kitchen with loving kindness, preparing the food with selfless attitudes to share with all others. And this sort of, practices are the qualities of the Buddha. So Buddha is there in the kitchen where we practice, mindfulness in the kitchen, cleaning the kitchen, all that, where Buddha is, living. So I said, well, it is a very useful story, and I would like to add this to my lectures at the university even, I said. And she was, very happy about it. And then I began to work on that, especially. if she said that the kitchen is the second house of the Buddha, because she practiced loving kindness, compassion, mindfulness, all that in the kitchen while cooking, etc., then I thought, this can be applied to
wherever we go.
Wherever we go. Even the bus will be our second house of the Buddha. Even our workplace, kitchen or hospital or whatever it is, garden is the second house of the Buddha, because we practice all these good qualities like awareness, loving kindness, compassion while working. And then later it came to my mind, I should find out the first house of the Buddha somehow. Then I started reading texts, some suttas, and luckily I found one very good example. Buddha asked Ananda, how he practiced taking refuge in the Buddha. Then Venerable Ananda replied, I practice mindfulness of my body, feeling, mind and mind objects. By being mindful of myself, I take refuge in the Buddha. My taking refuge, my being mindful of my own body, feeling, mind and mind objects is my practice of taking refuge in the Buddha.
Wow.
And then Buddha appreciated it. Buddha said, well done, Ananda. That is how you should understand. So it told me a very useful method of taking refuge in both Buddha and mindfulness at the same time. So taking refuge in the triple gem, at the same time taking refuge in mindfulness. They are not separable.
But unfortunately, people are very, nowadays they are very busy, and they have the systemization of meditation. I only meditate 5 or 10 minutes or 1 week in a retreat center. Then no need meditation, or I don't have time for meditation or practice loving kindness.
That's true. And this particular story, this particular connection between the kitchen and mindfulness and the hospital and mindfulness, wherever you find a workplace where you find good human qualities are practiced, then you find the second house of the Buddha there. At the same time, first house of the Buddha then is within one's own heart, within one's own mind, because we are mindful of ourselves. We are mindful of our heart and head. As we normally summarize, the head and the heart. The heart is the representation of the emotions, the compassion, faith, and all these we develop, compassion, loving kindness, etc. The development of our heart. And in parallel, we have a development of our head. So that is the development of the intellectual. So both in parallel, great compassion and great wisdom, we develop in parallel with each other, and that is where we should take refuge in.
Wow, that's really amazing, because nowadays mindfulness is very, booming in Western world, and it's a multi-billion-dollar industry.
That's true.
People practice mindfulness as yoga, but they often, sometimes misinterpret, and also they omit these virtues of these emotion qualities of mindfulness.
That's true, Bhante.
I think we have to. It has been decontextualized in the different contexts for a clinical purpose. I think, as you said, we need to recontextualize again.
Yeah. We should find the way of what I repeated as joy factor in whatever one practices, and add more meaning to what one practices by adding a little smile to, in other words, appreciating what they do. It will make them alive and keep going with the practice, adding some more qualities to life. So with that, I think people can benefit from meditation or from mindfulness much better than they do it as a dry field of practice.
Technical practice.
Technical practice. That is the holistic aspect of what I see as the practice of meditation.
Yeah, that's really things, how we need to add these virtues in the practice. And also at the end, I would like to, since you are visiting America and for nearly a month, what do you see, practice Buddhism back in Europe and back in here or Asia? Do you see any kind of differences here?
Yeah, here I notice, when I came from Europe to America, I noticed that more openness I could see here. The country itself is more open because it has a lot of space. And that space can influence people, I think, very much.
Yes.
But if they can benefit from the space that they could themselves open within themselves by adding some mindfulness and awareness, so that they are not stuck in any suffering, any problem, any stress. Because they, as I repeated, they can just become mindful of whatever stress they have. When they are mindful, they develop a space around it, so that they are not stuck in the problem.
Inside.
And that space, I think, they should benefit from. Where they live in America or in Europe, doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Wherever you go, you are with
with
good
your
health.
mindfulness. At the same time, you benefit from this way of allowing yourself to see yourself, allowing yourself to breathe in and breathe out, allowing yourself to, letting be. You have the space around you. At the same time, you have a lot of things to see around you, and you can just make yourself aware of how things are and be in harmony with ups and downs of life. Ups and downs means, a lot of noises you may hear, and let that be as, surroundings. Silence is there, let that be kind of influence, whatever, the surroundings. And if you see, sounds are no longer, sounds are not there in the world without silence. Silence cannot be there without sounds. And the same way, various ups and downs are there that we are facing, where we learn something like relativism or relativeness. Things are of dependent nature. And therefore, there is nothing per se, there is nothing to say that has an essence or that we should stuck in, that is the only thing that we want. There is nothing like that. Everything is empty of its own nature. Everything is of dependent nature. Therefore, we should benefit from this beautiful teaching so that we can live in harmony with oneself and with society.
Wow, thank you so much. Such a beautiful message. Today we are stuck in this. Most of people are suffering from mental health issues. 1 out of 8 all around the world is having a critical clinical mental health issue according to WHO.
Oh yeah.
In every 40 seconds while we are talking, someone is committing suicide.
Oh yeah.
It means they are stuck with these stories of this me, myself, all these women stories. And as you say, then how to keep a space.
Yeah.
Observe thoughts, feelings, emotions.
It's very important, isn't it? There are great teachers who stress these facts. We should, open-mindedly listen to them.
Would you like to recommend some of them?
Bhante Ji,
Bhante
Gunaratana from Sri Lanka, living in West Virginia, of course. He's 97 years old and has written marvelous books. Useful books like Mindfulness in Plain English and 8 Happy Steps or something like that.
Many books.
Many books like that. So Come and See, he began with, and as a Buddhist, I could recommend him. And there are a lot of Buddhist scholars, even in this society, Joseph Goldstein and Jack Cornfield, like scholars and practitioners, John Kabat-Zinn, Mark Williams, etc. They are all doing so marvelously and teaching mindfulness to society, benefiting from the teachings of the Buddha, of course, but it doesn't matter because Buddhism is not somebody's monopoly.
Yes.
So let any layperson or monks benefit from these great teachings and make the teaching their own and apply and make the teaching beneficial as possible, not only for themselves but for the whole of society. So this way, I think you can appreciate so many. I did not name everybody, of course. Venerable Thich who lived in Plum Village, I knew him so personally. And so many monks and nuns and practitioners are there among lay people as well as monks, nuns, etc. So we should be open-minded to benefit from whatever Buddhist school, it doesn't matter. We should benefit from them and apply the teaching. For the
benefit of mankind.
Yeah, that's for the good of mankind.
Regardless of their own religious belief.
That's right.
Without stuck in the isms.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we could say. For smile, there is no particular language or religion as such, no class, caste, or creed. Mindfulness is good for anybody who has mind.
Oh,
And
that's wonderful.
loving kindness is good for anybody who has a mind and body. Heart and head. That is the central aspect of the teachings of the Buddha, as well as teaching of mankind.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rathnayaka, for your wonderful time with us. So we learned a lot of things from your own life experience, how to apply the old theories and Buddhist teachings in your life and embody your life and feel happy wherever we go.
Thank you.
So thank you so much.
Thank you very much indeed.
Dear audience, tune with us at Mindfulness Journey again to learn from such a wonderful, living, spiritual personality like Dr. Rathnayaka. Tune with us at MMC TV.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mindfulness Journey. Subscribe to MMC TV USA on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram and TikTok.